Dialectal behavioral therapy, or DBT, is a type of therapy that helps people learn how to manage big feelings in tough situations without getting too upset. It teaches skills that help you stay calm and make good choices even when things seem extremely hard. DBT gives you the skills to understand your emotions better and not let them control you. Get along with others by being kind and clear about what you need. The ability to calm yourself when you're feeling extremely upset. And accept tough situations that you can't control so you don't stress yourself out about them, just to name a few. One thing that I like about DBT is that it helps you balance two important ideas: accepting yourself for who you are while also working on yourself to make better choices in the future. So it's kind of like a guide that helps you navigate being sad, angry, or upset, and it teaches you better ways to move forward and not let your emotions control you. So to demonstrate DBT, I'm going to be role-playing with the client who is having difficulty regulating her emotions and having trouble managing her relationships. So for the scenario, this client is a teenager who is struggling with anger outbursts both at home and at school. The goal of this session is to help the client understand her emotions better and teach them DBT skills to help better manage their emotions without lashing out in the future. So first, I will start with an introduction. I will start by briefly explaining what DBT is to the client. I will start by asking a question like, do you ever find yourself getting extremely upset, whether that's anger, sadness, or any emotion similar? And I'll wait for their answer. If they say yes, then I would say something like, okay, so today we're going to be working on tools for better managing those emotions and feelings and helping you get through these emotions. Next, I would attempt to identify emotional triggers. I would ask the client to identify a time when they felt extremely angry or upset. I would ask a question like, can you think of a time when you got extremely angry and you felt like yelling or hitting something or lashing out on someone? Next, I would introduce the DBT skill, which in this case would be emotional regulation. I would say that emotional regulation is noticing when you're angry, then giving yourself a chance to calm down and think of another way to express your feelings and emotions. I would also introduce opposite action, which is basically whenever you're angry, your brain is telling you to yell or hit something or, go off on somebody. But in that situation, just try doing the opposite of what your brain is telling you to do. Next, I would practice the skill with the client. I would say something like, think of a time when you're angry. I know your brain might be telling you to do this, but what would it look like if you tried doing something else? For an example, if your brain is telling you to yell while you're angry, what would it look like if you chose to take a deep breath instead? Next would be reflection and feedback. After the role play I just did with the client, I would ask them how they felt using that skill. I would try to see if it helped, what are their thoughts and opinions, and just try to gauge how they felt about the exercise. Then I would plan for the future with the client. I would encourage the client to use the skill next week or in a time where they're not with me. In an actual situation where they feel angry, try using the methods that we just practiced in this session. And just as a side note, I would tailor my use of DBT for clients that come from marginalized backgrounds or communities. I would acknowledge the client's unique experiences using culturally appropriate examples. If the client comes from a community where anger is often suppressed due to cultural norms, I would encourage the clients to find a safe space to express these emotions, Instead of them just being outwardly angry and expressing their emotions on people or in front of people, I would just encourage them to find a place where nobody will judge you, where you can just express yourself freely and get out all your feelings and your emotions without being judged. So I'm going to briefly demonstrate DBT with a partner who is off camera. So do you ever feel like you notice that whenever you get angry, it's hard for you to control what you say or what you do?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Okay, I understand that. So we're going to be using a DBT skill that helps you better navigate that.
Okay.
So can you think of a time when you got so angry that you just wanted to yell or hit something?
Yeah. On Monday, I was walking in the hall at school, and the person in front of me was walking so slow that they accidentally made me late to class, and I was so angry.
Okay, so what happened right before that made you feel that way?
I knew that I was in a rush to get to class.
Okay. So there's a few tools that I want to introduce that can help with this. The first one is emotional regulation, and this is basically whenever you feel angry and you feel yourself getting upset about something, just take a step back, a moment to realize that you're starting to feel this way.
I've never heard about that before, but okay.
And the next tool is opposite action. Whenever you're feeling angry, I know your brain might be telling you to go off on this person, yell at them, hit them, or lash out in that way. But I want you to try to do the opposite in that scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's practice the skills I just mentioned. So you talked about how on Monday you were walking behind somebody and you went off on them because they made you late to class. But in that situation, what can you do opposite of what you chose to do?
I could have walked around them.
Uh-huh. You could have walked around them. You could have taken a deep breath. Do you think that would have made a difference in how you reacted?
Yeah, I wouldn't have been so upset.
So after we've just come up with solutions to how you could have reacted differently in that situation, how does it feel thinking about it?
It feels good. It feels like I have options.
That's good. So now that I've introduced you to these two different DBT skills, I want you to try it on your own time. The next time you're angry at school or at home or you feel like you're about to lose control, just think about what I've taught you today. Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, for my second example, I'm going to be using the same client, but instead of her getting angry at school, she's getting angry at her parents because she asked to go to a school dance and they told her no, so she lashed out on them. Okay, so what happened recently?
So last week, I asked my parents to go to the school dance. I told them that it would be fully chaperoned and that there would be parents and teachers there, watching and supervising. I explained to them why I thought that I should go, and instead of hearing me out, they shut me down and they told me that no, I couldn't go without any explanation.
Okay, I can understand how that would make you frustrated. So what did you do when they told you no? How did you react?
So initially what I did is I got very upset and I felt myself getting very emotional. I started raising my voice and yelling and telling my parents that it wasn't fair, that they need to let me go.
Okay. If I understand you correctly, you asked your parents to go to a school dance and they told you no. So in that situation, you got upset and you raised your voice at them, right?
Yeah.
So in this situation, I think a better alternative to yelling at your parents would be for you to do some emotional regulation and some opposite action. So emotional regulation is giving yourself a chance to notice when you're getting agitated or angry and give yourself a chance to calm down. An opposite action would be for you to react in the opposite of how you chose to react. So you chose to yell at your parents in that situation, but the opposite action would be you choosing to take a deep breath or remove yourself from the situation so that you calm down so you don't end up yelling at them. Does that make sense? So let's take a moment to think about it. Think back to the time when you asked your parents to go to the dance and they told you no. Think about what you did in that situation and think about what I've just told you to do, which is emotional regulation and opposite action.
Okay.
So I've given you a moment to think about what you could have done differently. So what are your thoughts and your feelings? How do you feel now?
I feel good and I feel like I can definitely try to do those things in the future.
Do you feel like those two methods could have worked in your favor in that situation?
Yeah, I think that it could have given us a different outcome and that my parents might have been more likely to let me go to the dance.
Good. So moving forward, I would like you to try these two methods. So in the future, when you feel yourself getting angry and like you're about to lose control, let's do some emotional regulation and then some opposite action. Do you think you can do this for me?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to be checking back in with you next week, and I hope that my methods were helpful for you.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so we're back again. Last week you told me about how you asked your parents to go to a dance, they told you no, and you originally lashed out on them, but I taught you two new methods of emotional regulation and opposite action. So now I want to hear how it worked for you.
It worked well. I had another situation with my parents where I wanted to go to the mall with my friends. And at first, I asked, my parents said no. But instead of blowing up on them, I took a step back and I thought about it. And I thought of ways that I can convince them to allow me to go with them to the mall.
That's good. So the methods have been working apparently.
Yeah, I find myself getting less upset and regulating my emotions better.
Great to hear.